I'm 94 years old. I was married to my husband for 61 years before he passed away. And there's something I need to tell you, something most people don't want to hear. You probably didn't marry the perfect person, and strangely enough, that's completely okay. Before you scroll away, listen for a moment, because the truth I'm about to share is the only reason our marriage lasted more than 6 decades. And it's the exact opposite of what people usually say about soulmates and perfect love. When I was 23, I married a man named Thomas. He was charming, hardworking, and had a steady job at the local mill. He made people laugh easily, and everyone around me said I was lucky. My father shook his hand proudly at the wedding, and I truly believed I had found the one person meant for me. But by the time we reached our 4th year, doubts began to appear. Thomas left his boots by the door every night. He stayed quiet when I wanted to talk, and suddenly he wanted to talk when all I wanted was silence. We handled money differently. We argued about how to raise our son. We argued about his sister visiting too often. And we argued about my friends staying too late. Sometimes the arguments were about things so small I can't even remember them today, but back then they felt enormous. I remember thinking many nights, maybe I married the wrong man. I was 27 years old with a 3-year-old child, sitting at the kitchen table with my neighbor, Helen, who had been married nearly 35 years. I told her I wasn't happy and maybe Thomas and I just weren't meant for each other. I expected sympathy, but instead she laughed not in a cruel way, but in the way someone laughs when they recognize something familiar. Then she said words that stayed with me for the rest of my life. Dear, every one of us marries the wrong person. The secret is deciding to keep choosing them anyway. At the time, I didn't understand, but I do now. Because the truth is this: the person you marry is not the same person you stay married to. People change, and life reshapes them. The young man I married at 23 was not the same man I said goodbye to at 84. Thomas at 30 was ambitious and impatient. Thomas at 48 was exhausted and worried about providing for our family. Thomas at 65 was calmer and softer, the kind of man who reached for my hand in movie theaters. And Thomas at 80 needed me to remind him to take his medicine. So which version did I marry? All of them and none of them. Because I changed too. At 23, I was shy and uncertain. At 39, I had strong opinions about everything. At 50, I felt lost when my father died. At 60, I discovered a confidence I never knew I had. At 72, I was terrified during my first serious health scare. And by 85, I had more patience than the younger version of me ever imagined. If the woman I became later in life had met the young man I married, we might not even have recognized each other. But that's not how marriage works. You don't stay the same, you grow together, sometimes in the same direction and sometimes in completely different ones. And here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Marriage is not about finding someone who perfectly completes you. That idea ruins more relationships than it saves. Marriage is about choosing someone again and again, even when they're difficult to choose. There were years I didn't like Thomas very much. I'm being honest. There were weeks when I secretly looked forward to his fishing trips just so I could enjoy quiet. There were nights when I slept on the sofa after an argument and wondered what life alone would feel like. But I never stopped choosing him, not because it was easy, but because I decided our life together mattered more than temporary frustration. And something interesting happened over time. The things that irritated me at 30 became things I loved at 60. His quietness, which once felt like indifference, turned out to be his way of thinking things through. He wasn't ignoring me, he was processing. Once I realized that, everything changed. The way he spent money, something that drove me crazy for years, suddenly made sense when I remembered how poor his childhood had been. He wasn't reckless. He was proving to himself he had escaped that life. When I saw that, I stopped fighting him and started understanding him. Marriage isn't 5050 either. Some years it's 8020, and some years it's 9010. After my surgery in my late 60s, Thomas carried nearly everything: cooking, cleaning, helping me walk across the room, and he never complained. Years later, when he lost his job and fell into deep sadness, it was my turn to carry us forward. That's what partnership looks like. You don't keep score, because the moment you start counting who gave more, you've already lost. Young couples today expect one person to be everything: their best friend, their therapist, their adventure partner, their financial equal, their intellectual twin, their perfect romantic partner forever. But no one can be all those things. Thomas wasn't my best friend, that was Carol, who I talked to on the phone every week. Thomas didn't read the books I loved, and I never understood engines the way he did. Half the time we wanted completely different things, but he was my partner, and that was enough, more than enough. I'm 94 now, and Thomas has been gone 6 years. I miss him every single day, not because he was perfect, but because he was mine and I was his. We built a life together. We raised a son, survived illness and layoffs, and lost people we loved along the way. We laughed until tears came, and sometimes we cried until laughter returned. Did I marry the right person? I don't think that's the right question. I married a person, and then we both spent a lifetime making that choice right. So if you're in a marriage right now wondering if you made a mistake, here's the truth. Maybe you did. We all do. Marriage is a mistake you choose on purpose and then spend the rest of your life turning into something beautiful. The real question isn't times did I marry the right person? The real question is, am I willing to keep choosing this person even when it's hard? Because love isn't just a feeling, it's a decision you make every single day. I chose Thomas for 61 years, and if life gave me the chance, I would choose him all over again. If this story spoke to you, like the video, subscribe for more life lessons, share, and tell me in the comments, what do you think makes a marriage last?